my good friend and colleague, Paul Kirschbaum. I'm Leslie Wooten. It's 10:33. Let's get into it. I'm super excited about this, and I hope anybody who's joining us now just got through our previous series. It was a whole lot of fun. It was a 4-part series on hiring talent. We went through recruiting, we went through training, we went through attrition, like maintaining and motivating. So I hope anybody who's joining us now has seen those. If you haven't, they're on our channel, check them out. And part of all that hiring talent leads us to exactly what we're talking about here. And Paul, I know this is a big topic for you. This is, do I need a chef? So that's the big question. I'm not going to jump right into that just yet. So let me start off a little side question for you. Yes or no? Reading a recipe takes the same skills as writing a recipe.
No.
what's
the same
difference?
World. If you're gonna write a recipe, you got to make it. And
Okay.
It's usually not always exactly from scratch, but you got to know methods and the basics on even how to write a recipe, because that in itself is not easy. I've been doing it for 20 years, and it's not easy, especially if you're trying to scale it.
Sure. So creation of the recipe is completely different than execution of the recipe. Could you apply that same thing to like a menu? Creation of a menu is a lot different than execution of a menu.
Yes, because most people that create a menu has never written a menu, kind of like a POS system. And I'm sorry, but it's true.
Right.
It's a theory versus actual. We talked about that before.
Right. In number sense, but actual versus theoretical is always something that you might want to think about. Well, they should be able to do this, but here's what they're actually going to be able to do.
Yeah.
So let's really cover the basis to help everybody understand, what is the role of a chef?
Chef is basically to maintain, create, and execute everything food-wise.
Okay.
That's the simplest way I can put it.
Okay, so the creation of the menu as well. Yep.
Okay. Usually.
I'm really looking forward to everything that you have on this topic. Even the chef is usually involved with.
There's not coffee in this, guys.
Perfect. So let's get to the real nitty gritty on this discussion about a chef. Like, you were a chef. Outline all the things that a chef does. So they go through menu creation, they go through the recipe creation, they balance what on the menu for the establishment. What's going on?
It depends. I mean, it really depends. How much control the chef has. Mm-hmm. If it's a chef in general, I'm going to do this in general.
Sure,
chef's
great.
in charge of the food cost, the inventory, the execution, the hiring, the firing, the maintaining of all equipment, everything to do with back of the house. Because a lot of owners, not all, and this is where that kind of gets. It depends on who the owner is. If it's a multi-unit, there's a lot of things that depend. They're in charge of the whole thing: menu development, sometimes menu printing, definitely menu strategy, where things are placed to make you the most money. Margin is. We look at margin. Food cost is great, but you can't take a percent to the bank. That kind of stuff. Placement to make more money for the whole establishment. That's kind of what they're in charge of. Now, are some things scaled back? If some things even more? Some deal with the POS systems because, but anything to do with the back of the house training, retaining, any of it, it falls to the executive chef.
Okay. So let's also cover what the other roles in the kitchen are. You've got the chef, you got a manager, a cook, prep. What else is happening?
You got sous chef. It depends on the size. Chef de cuisine. A lot of the French style brigades are still around, and mostly in the big cities. You don't see them as much anymore. They're a lot less and less. When I came up, we had. I did sauces for 6 months. That's all I did was sauces. And then you move to the fish station, or you move to the dessert station. And I really didn't do much desserts, to be honest with you. But you moved around, and then as you're in the system, if you do grill or mid, it just depends on how it's set up. And then if you go to like a gastro pub, or you go to most restaurants, it's kind of like You know, the strong kind of run the big shifts, and then there's like a pecking order. You know, pretty much simplest way I can put it.
Starting off with sauces and then moving over to desserts after a while. That sounds like a Disney movie. Like you do this and then this and then this. And working
Pretty
in
much.
restaurants for so long, that doesn't sound like the experience that I have anymore in a restaurant. That it's not, oh, you do this only for a while. It's like, no, man, we're all going to get our hands in there. We're all going to get going. This person's leading it. This person's in charge of this. This person's in charge of this. But if I need you over here, you have to be able to do that too. Because I can't imagine the times that I've lost my marbles when somebody goes, oh, I'm only doing this today. I'm like, no, that's what you were scheduled for.
Yeah.
I need you to do this and this and this and this today. So,
but in culinary school, we're trained that way. We're trained to do it by station.
Well, in college, you're trained in segments as well. You're trained in math class here. You're trained in economics here. You're trained in English here. And that makes sense. Like, that's the way that you want to train, so you compartmentalize. But in the real world, once you get in the kitchen, you've got to be able to prep, make sauce, make desserts, make salads, and understand what's happening on the grill all at the same time. Even though you learn those things separately, because it'd be a disaster if you try to learn everything all at once. But you've got to be able to apply everything at once. Fair?
Yeah, and that takes a little bit of time. And I think that's why you start off. I mean, even when we do trainings in the kitchen, we start you at one position at all. You know, just to learn it and learn it and learn it. But then you can, you know, but a lot of them run everything. You have to be able to do every position because, I mean, every single day somebody calls out.
And you don't know what's going to get hit. You don't know if tonight's 80 guests are going to hit your pantry section. Like, you don't know what they're going to hit, and you got to just be prepared to flex. And sometimes you even got, you know, somebody, your sous chef, who can move from one side to the other because, oh, they're getting hit over here, I'm going to go get help over here. And that doesn't mean that person's incapable, but it just means that's where I'm helping. So let's go back to the chef and their role. And I'm going to ask some very specific questions here. And overall, remember, this whole conversation is about, do I need a chef? And I think it's not exactly a yes or no question, but
I got a good point where I'm going to go from.
Okay, I think we're going to get there. All right, but let me be more specific. Do you need a chef to do your inventory?
No.
Okay. Do you need a chef to manage the staff schedule?
No.
Okay. Do you need a chef to ensure safety and sanitation in your establishment?
Nope.
Okay. Do you need a chef for quality assurance and recipe adherence?
Not adherence, no.
Okay. So what does it look like in a restaurant if you don't have a chef? Is it a disaster? What happens if you don't have a chef?
I mean, you know my background, so no, you don't. It sometimes is smoother.
Why is that?
Well, I know I'm probably preempting this a little bit because my mind's just, you know, I don't know if I know where you're leading me to, but
I don't feel like I'm leading. I think I know where you stand, but I think overall we're going to be on the same page.
You do not need. Okay, I'm going to answer the question. Do you need a chef in a restaurant? You do not need a chef on a day-to-day basis, but you need a chef at some level for the restaurant. If that is the owner, if that is a consultant, if that is a food service provider that has chefs on staff, or other sources, at one point you do need a chef. But I don't think you need a chef to maintain the day-to-day operations.
So it does not have to be part of your management team. It might be, a consultant to be able to kick off your menu the way that I want this to happen this way and this way, because I'm an owner, but I'm not a chef. And I know that I want beer and wings. Okay, cool. So I hire cooks, I hire kitchen, I hire staff that knows how to execute those things. And then I hire somebody on the side to help me create those recipes. But then once I have those recipes, the recipe adherence and the management of inventory, the management of my schedule, the management of safety sanitation, the management of quality assurance, recipe adherence, I can do through a kitchen manager. Does that sound right?
It's sad but true. It's the exact opposite when I started this business, what I thought it was. But over the last, decade and a half, kind of my style was that's what I did. I went into restaurants, made them profitable in the back of the house, and left. That was it. They knew that. That means going in. It's um, the day to day. It's with the way it is now. And now again, I'm preempting this. If it's fine dining, and you're a chef driven concept, and the owner has
Sure.
none of that in his repertoire, then maybe, yeah. I'm not saying this is for across the board, but I say most restaurants, most dine-in restaurants, most quick service restaurants, gastropubs, bar. I'm not talking fine dining. I think that's a whole other beast. We can talk about that another day. But in general, you can have a place run, just have SOPs, recipes built in, and just, as long as it's being monitored correctly,
Mm-hmm.
you just need somebody to help you do the creative part of it. I don't think you need a chef on the day-to-day operations of it. You just need a kitchen manager or a
So
really strong lead.
sure. So would it be fair to say that, let's say that the chef is part of the team, or the chef is the owner? So let's talk to those chefs out there. Let's talk to those owners who are chefs out there, and it is a chef-driven concept. But you just came out with your new menu. You've just recreated everything. The creativity is done on paper. You've put it out on the website, printed on the table right there. Everybody's been through training. Creativity, for the most part, is done. We need to start executing this. That chef, by title, by whatever work hat they're wearing, needs to transition into kitchen manager, into leader, into operator, and wait for the chef part of what they're good at until we begin to create or recreate the menu again. Is that fair? Is that something that you would advise any chefs out there who are like, I need to create, like right now you need to operate?
Yeah. I mean, it's very rare where you get a chef that it's not rare. It's maybe, let me say, I'll just be blunt about it. It's very rare to have a chef that's very creative and a great manager and operator at the exact same time. I was better. I am decent at creating. I'm not saying I'm the best. There's certain niches I'm really good at. I haven't done it in a long time, but and then still doing the cost controls and the inventory, all the stuff that encompasses. It's not easy. I mean, you look at a lot of chains, local chains, national chains. That's their MO. They have instead of paying for a consultant, they just have a head chef that covers all of it.
Right.
And then they have kitchen managers at each one that just make sure they execute it. So that top chef, executive chef at the top, corporate level, all has to worry about is kind of creating and the basic SOPs of what the recipe and what the restaurants can handle, which they usually already know. And then they pass down to the KMs that can actually they can take it. Oh yeah, they're all wonderful chefs. I mean, we could sit there and try to define what the word chef even means, because that is another thing that's thrown around pretty liberally. So but kitchen managers, to me, most of them are chefs or chefs in training, sous chefs basically, that take that idea of creativity and make it functional and maintain it the whole time.
Right. So so being from Austin, one of a guy I used to work with, his son, who I used to see all the time when I was waiting tables, went on to open up his own restaurant, and he works there every day. And this is the odd duck in Austin, and he is a chef. He was trained by his father, who's a chef and creative, and he has a new menu every day. New specials, new desserts, everything's happening. Maybe not every day, but at least every time you go in there. And if you go in once a week, you've got something new every day, because he's not just creating the menu. He works to manage. He's in the kitchen. He's working to prepare everything. And if you don't, correct me where I'm wrong, but if you don't have that daily involvement as a chef who's trying to create on the fly in the moment, you have to create something and step back and let it manage. Because if you expect it to be as creative as you possibly are and you're not involved, you're not going to find success.
Creativity doesn't make money. I'm just being very blunt. I learned that pretty early. I thought I wanted to be the most creative person in the world. What if you're sick? What if you have a family emergency? what's going to happen to the restaurant if you don't trust, especially you don't trust the person behind you,
Sure.
and
And
if they're not
I
as creative
completely,
to you. Because
I
if you're
completely,
working 5-6 days a week, I think there is a balance between being creative and making money, because it's got to make money. It's got to be profitable to do it. And
right.
so
And
I think that if you have these SOPs and other people are touching it and create, because I'm telling you, if there's a basically a set margin of kind of, if you're
mhm,
good, you make 60 cents on the dollar. If you're
mhm,
good, if you
mhm.
are good. So you need to sell this much to make this much money, right? So
Right.
if you're $1 million in sales a year, you're taking home
60 grand.
$60,000 a year. I mean, that's where the creativity is very important, but it's
Mhm.
got to make money. And
Yep.
where does that line end up? You
Mhm.
know,
And I think that was my point about the odd doc and what he's got going on there, is that he's there every day. From what I understand, I don't know exactly his operations, but he's part of the purchasing. He goes out and he shops for what he's going to sell that day, and he buys fresh produce, and he's like, oh, we got this, I can make this, or I can make this, and is creating day in and day out. And if you're not the chef who is doing that, that creativity is not going to fly. If you are
those are
not
rare.
involved.
I mean,
Oh,
they're
exactly.
rare.
That's my point. Is that's rare, and everybody thinks
Those,
that, oh, I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna have this creativity. I'm like,
mm-mm.
are you gonna work that hard for 5, 6, 10 years every day? Because that's what your little small
Yeah.
local chefs who are making the news are doing. They're working their butts off, and I don't mean that you and I don't, but I mean, oh, the
I mean,
work that they
they're
have
up
to
at
put.
4 a.m. Because you think
Oh,
about it, if they're going to the market to get all these
mhm,
products,
mhm,
they still got to prep it. Still got to, get everything, and then they have to train their staff how to do it
mhm.
in 1 day or 2 days or a week.
Correct, correct.
I mean, I've you know I've seen chefs do it. I've seen chefs who are very successful at do it. They're the savants. I'm just talking to the masses in
Yep.
general.
Same.
That's not what people. And if people want that, get a food truck. That's your answer. Get a food truck. Get a cart. I
So,
mean,
so I think a lot of people that would be watching this looking for, hey, what do I do? Should I have a chef or not? I've got this concept, and I'm mostly going to be selling beer or wine or cashing in on appetizers, and I don't want to change the menu every day. You know, the normal stuff.
yeah.
Could we advise them to replace the title chef with food and beverage manager, or maybe even director of culinary, something that is more management oriented than creative oriented?
I think in general, yeah, you can. Yes,
Mhm.
I would say whoever is in charge of your kitchen, you let them pick that. I've
Sure.
had that. I've walked in and said, "What do you want to be called? You want to be a chef?
Hmm.
Do you want to be a director?" Or, I mean, if you're a small independent company, calls me director of culinary. I mean, what title do you want? Because
They're
I don't
still a
care
line
about
cook.
it. It doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah.
they're not. Like, I know how hard it is in the back.
Yeah.
You know, it's still not easier, but it's easy when you have everything set in the blocks, right?
Right.
And if that person is in the back is just an amazing manager and he maintains the staff and he keeps everybody happy and everybody does their job, they show up on time, they're not methed out. I
Good
think
with
it's
inventory,
really,
good with numbers.
yeah. I mean, pay him as good as a chef.
Yeah.
If he wants to be called chef, call him chef. If he wants
Cool.
to
I
be
agree.
called kitchen manager, I don't care what you call him. As long as he gets paid and he does a job,
Mhm.
call it whatever you want. I mean, if he knows that his limitations is not the creative part, there's so many companies that have on staff, I'm not going to mention them, that have that on staff to create for these companies. And the thing is, they're like, oh, they're just creating it for everybody. No, they're not. They're making it individualized. They're doing demographics reports. They're looking at
Mhm.
who your customer is, where they're
Mhm.
coming in, how far away a Walmart is. I mean, they literally do so much research that I guarantee most restaurants don't do. And these chefs that are creating for these restaurants get this handed to them by business people that work for the company and go, hey, these are all the numbers in the area. This is what kind of is missing. We
Mhm.
don't see this here. So let's make it, because a lot of these like companies that you work with, and I'm when I say companies, I mean food service companies, and I'm
Yep.
not going to mention all of them, but these they want you to succeed,
Right. They
because
want you
if
to,
you
yeah.
sell more, that means you buy more. So
Right.
they have all
Amazing.
these resources, and a lot of customers, and trust me, I was the same way when I was on the other side. Customers go, well, there must be a hidden thing. There must be something hidden. No, because we
No.
want you to be busier to spend more
Mhm.
money with us. That's the whole why we exist. So a lot of these companies invested in menu engineers, they've invested in chefs, they've invested
Mhm.
in business specialists or go-to-market specialists and digital specialists. Like this stuff is resources for your company to get better. And if that cuts the chef out of it and it makes that kitchen manager or the person that manages your kitchen, whatever you call them, to
Mhm.
me, it's like it's a no-brainer. Um, if that's available to you. It's not available to everybody. I mean, let's be honest. But if it's available to you, to me, it's a no-brainer. Sorry, I went on my rant. I'm done.
It's great. I mean, you went to CIA. You graduated CIA. Cooking is not the only thing that they're teaching you there.
Oh,
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're learning kitchen management. You're learning numbers. You're
yep.
learning the business side of it. And I think that's the point we're trying to make here is that if you're sitting there thinking, generally, do I need a chef? It's like, well, what kind of concept do you want? Because you might have a great chef, but you need to make sure that that chef has management skills, has a number skills, is able to market and use their resources to be able to go out into the local community and flex from just the creative food side to going, you know what? This atmosphere, this building, this business model needs this. And you
Yeah.
create what you need, not what you want. And that's really what I feel that we're getting at here is no, you do not need a chef. You need a business model and you need somebody who can execute that business model as a manager, leader, and professional in the kitchen.
Exactly. Let's be honest, and we'll put it out there. How we know each other, if you guys
Yeah.
don't know this, Les was a GM hiring a chef, and I was a chef.
Yeah.
Les, how long did I last as your executive chef?
Oh, 9 months.
No, like 5.
Oh, it was a long
So
time. It was a new restaurant. Like it
it was
started.
brand
So
new, guys. I'm
yeah.
just telling you, and this is from my experiences. Everybody could be different. Chefs don't stay long.
Oh, we were different people. Yeah. I
But
mean,
even
this
in
was.
general, in
Uh-huh.
most restaurants, chef-driven concepts,
Hmm.
the chef does not stay long.
They
So
don't because you created it.
whatever you do, make sure that whatever creativity you own it as a restaurateur. If you hire a chef
Right.
and whatever they come up with, technically you own it.
Hmm.
This is how it works in the world.
Hmm.
Make sure you get that in writing. So if they do create a restaurant or create recipes and a concept, make sure you get it all written down. You have access to it.
And you know what we did when you left? We had a kitchen manager who just managed everything, and
And
we
did my
had
recipes.
did your recipes. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
recipe creation, and then
yeah.
longer story long, you went to New York. I moved on from there. I opened a couple other concepts. We reconnected, and now here we are,
Yeah.
friends after the colleague section. Actually, we were friends then too, because I mean, let's be real. That's where we were buying used equipment. Don't ever do that. We were cleaning used equipment. Don't ever do
Oh,
that.
I hurt my back. Remember?
Yeah.
I was limping for the first month that we were open.
Hmm. And what did buying used equipment and cleaning used equipment have to do with your culinary degree?
None, but I learned a
See,
lot. I'll give you that.
sure, absolutely. But the point of this conversation is, do I need a chef? And I think the answer is absolutely not. No, you do not.
You
If you
need
know
one
what
at
you
a
need.
process. You need one
Sure.
somewhere in the process.
Hmm.
If you're the owner of the restaurant and you are or were a chef, then there is at some process you need a chef for
Hmm.
the creativity part of either your concept, or your menu development, or recipe development, or just ops development in the back. The flow. I would highly recommend do not open a restaurant and not have a chef walk through the back of the house, design if you're burning from scratch, to look about
Hmm.
where you should place stuff.
Yep.
Um,
Sure.
so you need it at a point, but
Hmm.
you don't need it on a day-to-day operational basis.
There it is. Fascinating. Um, Even more interesting to hear from perspective of a CIA graduate. that was once a chef, and now it's management and being able to flex and get through all that. And by far, Paul, you've been my favorite chef I've ever worked with.
Oh,
I mean, we're still here. Like we're still here. So, I mean, if that's not clear, then people are crazy. And I've got some great chefs that I've had the privilege to work with, and just fascinated to have seen what you and me as well have done in the last decade plus. For those of you watching who are considering bringing a chef into your operations or your startup, what did we bring up that you hadn't considered before? For anybody who is an experienced viewer, give us some feedback and join in the conversation. Leave us a comment. Be sure to follow up on the channel and show some love. We'll keep coming back with some more strategies and insights to help you improve your operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.